This is going to be the single most important video on my channel for the next 6 months, because this is the video that I'm going to reference in about 90% of my future videos. It's a complete launchpad to understanding and using VAPI AI and Make.com. If you have watched none or just 1 or 2 instruction videos about VAPI AI and Make.com, and especially the combination of those two, then this is going to be the perfect video for you, because I'm going to show you the most concise and clear instruction on how to get to know these platforms and make them work for you. And the greatest thing is, right now, at this moment, you can decide how much value you're going to want out of this video, because I have divided it into 3 levels. So level 1 is going to be Make.com. How does it work? How can you use it? Level 2 is going to be VAPI AI UI, so just the user interface, the place that you're going to log into and build your assistants. And then level 3 is going to be the API. How does the documentation work and what can you do with the API reference? And there's been actually since this week an entirely new API UI in Swagger UI. So that's going to be exciting. That's completely new. It's only this week. So we're going to go through that. If you've already watched some VAPI AI videos, then you're going to want to watch this one, because there's been some real serious updates. My advice is to open up a browser on a second screen or on your phone or whatever as a split screen, so you can follow along and follow the steps. But of course, that is not strictly necessary. You can also just watch this video and make a note. So that could be a mental note or physical notes, but actually learning, understanding this stuff is going to be really powerful. My intention and my goal in this video is to tell you literally everything that you have to know in order to build your own systems with Make.com and VAPI AI. So I make building videos, and you can literally just build VAPI AI voice assistants with me. I've done a restaurant call, I've done a receptionist, I've done an appointment setter. So all of these things work, and they work really well. But I also want to give you the tools so you can build your own systems. And that is the intention of this video. I'm going to tell you everything so it really becomes clear to you, and you can literally build anything with Make.com and VAPI AI and use it either for your own business, or if you're an agency owner, sell it to your clients. Before we get into it, I really want to acknowledge the feedback and the comments and the likes and everything that I got on my last videos. It's extremely motivating. They're all really good comments, really supporting, and some feedback on, hey, you should focus on this, and this would be interesting, and keep it up. Looking forward to the next video, and that is really important. As you can see in the subscriber count, I'm not a big channel yet, but I'm very passionate about AI and how can use it to either build a business or improve businesses. So that's what these instruction videos are for, and it's really great to see that I can be a part of this. And I think right now the AI community is the best community in the world at the moment, because the space is so big. You can freely exchange ideas and not be worried about losing your competitive edge, because the space is just so big. And everyone is really excited about the opportunities that are ahead, as am I. In keeping with that, so this is going to be a very quick and actually unrelated tip for agency owners, but also if you own your own business and you're looking at this video because you want to improve your business. Someone in the comments asked me how I grow on LinkedIn. I've built up quite the profile at this moment, and well, I was wondering, how did I do that? And I was already working on this video, so I thought, hey, why not just add it in as a bonus, share it with everyone. So here's my formula. You can just skip ahead if you're not interested in, hey, how can I grow on LinkedIn? But I thought, hey, why not just add it in here and continue with the VAPI AI stuff later. So really quickly, I have a very clear and concise formula for building your LinkedIn profile, and then actually also building your connections and network and actually getting something out of it. So first thing you're going to do is build your profile. So you're gonna add a profile picture to your banner. Let me restart that. You're going to build your profile by adding a profile picture and a banner. So use Canva for this to give your profile a cool background, and pick a template for your banner. Don't waste more than 10 minutes on this. Just make a quick headshot of yourself and then put it in Canva, remove the background, give yourself a cool background, use the same color palette for that background on your banner, and then make something nice out of it. This funny figure that I got on my banner is just something I created with AI, with Midjourney. So don't waste more than 10 minutes on this, and then go to your bio. Use the brain cloud method to write your bio. This is a strategy that is probably very common at this moment, but I like to believe that I invented it. Write down these 3 things in this order without giving even a second of thought about grammar or formulating correctly or anything that you learned in school. So these are the 3 things that you're just going to have to sit down and write down the first things that come to your mind. What are you really, really immensely excited about in your work? What do you do? Why should people send you a DM? And what happens if they do? Don't spend more, write this down off the top of your head. And again, don't waste more than 5 minutes on this. Just write out the first things that come to your mind. Don't worry about writing in a structured way or anything. Just write it down and then give the results to ChatGPT and tell it to keep your unique tone of voice, but add structure and grammar and formulating it for readability for a LinkedIn bio, and ask for 3 variations of this and add the best one to your profile. So that's a really great method to get the most out of ChatGPT for these kinds of stuff, because if you don't use that method, then you're just gonna get some generic ChatGPT stuff that's really not gonna work, especially if you're already in this business. Then the third step is fill out your work experience. Leave out anything shorter than 3 months unless it was a temporary project. So if it was a temporary project, you can do any time frame. But if it was not, if it was actually a job, just do anything over 3 months and you could just fill it out with the rest. 4, give your entire bio and experience to ChatGPT and ask it to generate the shortest, cleanest, and most to-the-point header for your profile. Cut away the fat. So if you look at mine, right now it's in Dutch because I am Dutch. But if you would translate it into English, it would say, "We make low-code web applications and automations with AI, co-owner at Vlireo BV." These are the best headers by far. Don't make it complicated. Don't add emojis or random stuff. Just where do you work, what do you do, and what's your function at that place. That's all you have to put in there. So then your profile is done. Now, write a good LinkedIn post with some valuable info about your work with the same brain cloud method that I described earlier. So just sit down and write down something of value about your work. Again, don't worry about structure and formulating correctly and grammar and all that kind of stuff. Just don't worry about that. And also add 3 examples of other people's LinkedIn posts. So just go on the feed and look for 3 examples that have worked really well, got some engagement, but also that you think yourself looks good, because then it actually adds or fits your LinkedIn character. And then, give your brain cloud method, your brain cloud result, plus the 3 examples to ChatGPT, and again, ask it to write a LinkedIn post using your unique tone of voice and the 3 examples for structure. So then you post it with a picture of yourself while working, or just a smile with a wall as a background. So either you're working and making a picture of yourself always smiling, or just you with a background like a wall is good enough, as long as you have some good, don't have some weird, not wearing some weird stuff, and actually have a smile on your face. That's good enough. And never use hashtags. You don't have to use hashtags on LinkedIn. It doesn't work really well. So never use hashtags. And then post it. Don't worry about getting any results from that. It's just important that you at least have 1 post with your face on it on LinkedIn. And then send connection requests to people in your industry doing the same thing and your ideal customer. So if you're an AI automation specialist, you're going to want to add other AI automation agency owners or people who are enthusiastic about AI, and also add your ideal customer. So if you're selling to marketing agencies, add marketing agencies to that, and this is how to do it. Look in your recommended and send a blank request to anyone with over 5 mutual connections. So if you don't have that yet, you only just build your LinkedIn account, what you're gonna have to do is add a message to your connection request. You can just copy and paste that. You don't have to personalize it, or at least personalize it minimally by just adding their name and just saying, hey, I saw that we're in the same industry. I think it would be great to connect. And then just leave it at that and send them that, and send all those connection requests. So add a message if you don't have anyone with over 5 mutual connection requests, and don't add a message if you have over 5 mutual connection requests. In the end, eventually you're going to have enough that almost everyone in your recommended is going to have more than 5 mutual connections. So they're going to accept your connection request regardless of whether there is a message attached. But again, connections are not valuable in and of themselves. They don't even help with your posts. So you actually have to connect or engage with your connection requests. So what do you do after you've added all these connection requests? You're going to do you can send about 100 connection requests a week, and you're going to have to use all of those. And then every other day, you're going to look at your connections, and then at the top of that page is going to be your new accepted connections. You're going to send them a message, a minimally personalized message, but something that is really you, not ChatGPT, and is sincere, and has to be very concise. So at max 2 sentences, and it's just a quick hi of, hey, thank you for accepting my connection request. Looking forward to seeing you in my feed. Good luck with whatever about their business. Actually look at their profile and then send something that way. You don't have to, it's better to make a really meaningful post than just, a really meaningful message than just sending a random message to everyone. So do that, and then everyone who replies, because most people are not going to reply to your first message even though they have accepted your connection request. Everyone who does reply, you're going to send another reply. Of course, you're going to start that dialogue, but also you're going to hit that notification bell on their profile, so that every time they post something, you can like and comment on it, and they will see it and they will remember you. So the next time they're in a board meeting and saying, hey, we actually need this or that, you'll be the first guy or gal that they're going to think of. So that's really important. And also you're in dialogue with them, so you can actually send them a message immediately, or after a month, or after 3 months, or after they've posted and you've replied, you get a reminder, oh, hey, this must be someone I am in dialogue with because I've hit that notification bell. So you can actually send them a message. And that way you can really connect with your audience, with your network, and you can really get the most out of LinkedIn. So yeah, that's just something really quick. I see that it took me 10 minutes to explain that, but I hope that is something you can work with. And again, if you didn't find this interesting, you could just skip ahead to the VAPI AI automation instruction. So yeah, there's that. Let me know in the comments if this is anything you agree with, you think that this is a good way to use LinkedIn, if you're going to try this out, or if this was helpful for you. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the Make.com tour. So I'm going to try and make this as concise and cut away all the fat that I can. Everything that you don't need if you're going to start off with Make.com and VAPI AI, I'm not going to get into. I'm going to tell you everything that you're going to use and all the things that you're going to have to use in the future. I'm also not going to get into, because if you learn this stuff and the other stuff with VAPI AI and actually start building with them, then all the other extra tools within Make.com will be self-explanatory. So by the time you're going to need them, you're already going to understand how you should use them. So I'm not going to get into that as well. I really cut away all of the fat and everything that you don't need if you want to start off with Make.com and VAPI AI. So you're going to go to Make.com, you're going to make an account. I've made a test account so I can show you the environment, because I want to log into my main account where all my projects are to show you the scenario environment, of course. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. But once you made an account, you can just use a free account. You can do a lot of stuff in make.com with a free account. So most of you guys are not going to have to use a free, get a subscription until you actually launch that client and are going to be a big user. So you can do literally anything with the free version. What you're going to do, if you're in this platform, you've logged in, you're going to be in organization or my organization, and you can literally ignore anything that is here. So ignore all of these tabs and all of these tabs. The only thing that you're going to use probably in the foreseeable future is scenarios. So just you can browse through them, but don't mind them too much. In the templates. All right, so when you click scenarios, you're going to be in this environment right here. And you can also ignore all of these tabs. You're just going to stay with the all tab. And every time you're going to make and build a new automation, you're going to go to create a new scenario. You're going to give it a name like my automation. And right now we're in the environment that I'm going to use my own profile. So we're going to go into that right now. So then you have an empty integration. You can give it a name like test scenario. And well, in this environment, you can build your automations. And how do you do that? You add bubbles or modules actually that have a specific function. And I'm going to build one real quick. So add a webhook. And then just some random stuff. I'm not even going to think about it. Message and assistant. Wait, no, not message and assistant. I'm going to add chat GPT, for example. This will all make sense in a minute. And then Outlook, or rather Gmail. So actually, I can show you something. Copy, and then so this is what we're going to build. This is one of the easiest automations in make.com. What we're going to do is we're going to make the automation that, and later this will make sense if we build the VAPI AI assistant. We're going to call our assistant and ask them to write a blog about a certain subject. It's going to send that subject to this webhook, give it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is going to build or write that blog, and then it's going to send me that blog through Gmail. So that's really one of the easiest ones you can build. If you want to add another function to your automation, you're going to click that plus, and then these are all the tools that you can use. So there are like amazing number of them. So you can just type in, for example, Gmail, because we want to send a Gmail, click Gmail, and these are all of the functions that you can use. Most of them are self-explanatory. Copy an email, create a draft, delete an email, and also, of course, send an email. So that's the one that we're going to be using. Now, every scenario has to start off with a trigger. So you can't start off a scenario without a trigger, so you can't use this one because this one has a function. It actually does something. The first module, so the first bubble, never does anything. It doesn't do anything. It starts the scenario. So it says literally like, hey, we have to go do something, and it tells the next one. It does get data. So for example, someone fills out a form on your website, and it sends the information to the trigger right here. So then it has two functions. Not only does it tell the automation to start, it also has information to give to the next module, so to the next bubble. Because if we delete this, this is the kind of trigger that just says, hey, we need to start. So it doesn't give any information. It can't give information. The only thing it does is, if we click here, we can tell it when this automation should start, should do something, when it should wake up and get to work. So we can do at regular intervals, so like every 15 minutes it has to work. Certain days of the month, so only the 20th day of the month, for example, or certain days of the week, so only on Mondays and Wednesday at 13:32. Then it has to go and work something, and then it starts from here. But, and this is a very popular one, if we add a webhook, so you literally type in webhook, you click custom webhook, not custom mailhook, you click custom webhook, so receives data, and then what this one does is it actually is triggered by an external source. So if you want it to work when someone fills out a form, or if someone calls your VAPI AI assistant, or if someone sends a certain email. So if there's an external source that has to start the automation, you're going to want to use a webhook. So, and it's also always going to be this one. Well, not technically, but as far as you have to know, for the foreseeable future, you're always going to use this one. So a webhook. I'm going to explain what a webhook is in a minute. I have all kinds of webhooks already made, but we're going to add a new one. So add, and then random stuff. The webhook name doesn't really matter, and you can, as far as I know, you can generate unlimited webhooks in make.com, and it's really not a problem. So just every time you use it, make a new one, give it a name, a cool name. That also really doesn't matter for now. You don't have to click advanced settings. You don't have to add anything here in most cases. So you can just click save, and then you have the link. So by now you're probably wondering, how does that form know to send information to that webhook? Or how does my VAPI AI assistant know where to reach that webhook? A webhook is a link that they use to interact with this system. And once someone fills out a form, they're not interacting with this entire automation. They're only interacting with the webhook, so the trigger. So the first one. This is the only thing that they're interacting with. They're sending information to go and do stuff with, and they're saying, hey, go and do stuff. That's the only thing that they're doing. And then this one initiates the rest. So we can use this webhook to fill out our VAPI AI assistant information later. For now, let's go to the next one. So this is a module that's actually going to do stuff. It can be anything. I'm going to use the OpenAI one just as an example. Wait, I'm first going to explain this one. Because here I'm already logged in, as you can see, my OpenAI connection. In Gmail, I have not logged in yet, so you can add a connection. So my Google, you have to log in basically. So that's the easiest way to explain it. Sometimes that's with an API. Not going to get into that right now. In this case, it's just going to be logging in like this. So you're going to accept that and then allow. Oh wait, right now I'm using a gmail.com instead of a Google Workspace account. I'm not going to be able to log into the Google Workspace account right now, so we're going to have to use an Outlook module. I'm going to click Outlook because we want to send an email with Outlook, and then show more, and then create and send a message. So we're going to have to click Flireo. There we go. Click that right now. So these are the things that we're going to get started with. First, we get the information and the message, hey, start the automation from Webhook. Then we're going to build a blog, write a blog with OpenAI, and then with Microsoft 365 email, we're going to send that email. So send the result from OpenAI or the ChatGPT. So let's get into that. Select method, we're going to create a chat completion. Every time you add a module and you're going to start to work with a new module, you're going to have to figure it out. Most of it is going to be logical. You don't have to get into the documentation. Sometimes you do, but it's not like if you understand a few modules, then you understand all of them. Everyone is going to be a little bit different, but most of the time you're going to have a description like this, for example, that's going to tell you what is the function of that field that you can fill in. So in this case, you probably have to log in to OpenAI. I've already done that. I'm going to select a method, in this case chat completion. So we're going to send a chat to our chat GPT and ask it to, well, send something back. In this case, I'm going to use the newest one, so that's GPT 4.0, and I'm going to add a message. Role, you can use the role of the system, the assistant, and user. In most cases, I've never actually used the system or the assistant one yet because it's not been necessary. So in most cases, you're just going to use the user one, and then your message content. So this is what you're going to send to ChatGPT to work with. This is going to be your prompt. And right now, I can actually ask it to write me a blog. And this is the max tokens. You can add that to 0, so it has unlimited amounts of tokens you can use. I'm not going to get into that right now. If you add click OK right here, then every time that this automation is triggered, it's going to produce the same result. Well, not necessarily because it's OpenAI, but it's going to give the same prompt. So every time it runs, it's just going to say, write me a blog, write me a blog, write me a blog. Not like if you call the assistant and say, write me a blog about a cat walking its dog, it's not going to say that. Even though you tell your assistant that, and it says that it's going to send that information to the webhook, and the webhook actually gets the information, it's not going to give that information to ChatGPT because you've not added it right here in the message content. So in order to do that, we actually have to get an example from the assistant. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to build an assistant. Wait, no, I'm even going to make it more simple than that. What we're going to do is we're going to go to tools. So ignore this assistance for now. We're going to go to tools because tools are the things and the functions you're going to build that are in between your assistant and make.com. So you have your assistant and you give it a prompt like, you're a customer service agent for our business and help our customer. And every time that the customer wants us to write him a blog or write a blog for us, you're going to use this tool. So that's all you're going to build in the assistant. And then it initiates that tool like an automation, which is then connected to make.com. So you have assistant, which is made to help the caller, but also start tools. And then the assistant starts a tool, and the tool is then connected to make.com to start the automation. And then the automation has a result that's given back to make.com or not necessarily. So you're going to create a tool. In this case, we're going to make a make tool. That's the most. Those are the most tools that you're going to make because make.com is the easiest way to go to make really cool stuff with VAPI. Also, go high level. I'm certainly going to make a video about this at a later stage because that's amazingly powerful. If you know how to use and combine VAPI AI with go high level and make a custom interface for your customers, for example, that's pure gold at this time. But I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm just going to give you the make example. Here's the server URL. Don't get confused by server URL. In this case, you're just going to have to add your webhook. So this is the place that you're going to talk with your webhook to. So you're going to copy that. You can just physically copy it or just click copy address to clipboard. I'm going to go here and add it right there and click save. It's going to load, of course. It's not that quick, not always. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that it's already saved. I just have to click next. All right, so now we're going to build our schema. What is this? If we want to send data to our automation, we're gonna have to build a schema. If we don't want to send information, so we just want a trigger, we just want to tell the automation go without telling it anything else, just go, just start, then we're not gonna build a schema. So if we're not sending anything, for example, you have an AI voice agent that has to, well, VAPI AI at this moment doesn't know to tell the time. It can't tell the time because it's trained on data from like 2023 or something. So every time you're going to book a meeting, it's going to ask, can you do next week? So that's October 17th, 2023, for example. It doesn't know that. So if you want to get that information, you're going to connect to make.com. And literally the only thing you're going to do is you have your assistant. You say, if you want, at the start of every conversation, use the tool to get the time. And then you can use that tool to make a reference of like, oh, wait, no, it's not 2023, it's 2024. But you're going to tell the assistant at the start of every conversation, you have to use the tool to get the time. So then it initiates that tool, and that tool initiates the automation. And that automation will then start the webhook and not give the webhook any information. It's just going to say, hey, let's go. And then here's a module, an HTTP module that's going to get the time. How it does that, I'm going to get into that at a later video. Or you can just watch one of my other videos. I'm going to explain HTTP modules there because they're a little more complicated. But it's going to tell the webhook, hey, get that information. Or start this automation. It's going to initiate the HTTP module. It's going to get the time from a certain API. It sounds complicated. It really isn't. This is just... Wait, you know what? I'm going to show you guys how to do this. It's so easy. I don't even understand why I'm not showing you guys this. So you got worldtimeapi.org. You're literally going to copy this. Going to go back here, add a new module. You can double click the canvas to add a new module, by the way. So if you're wondering, what did I do there? Click HTTP and then make a request. You also, I like to build modules away from the automation, but you can't actually do that unless it's connected. So you can just drag it to a place where you want it to. If you want to unlink it, right click the link and then click unlink, of course. And you can also just add it between two things. For now, it really doesn't matter because I'm only showing you the example. So put the URL in right here and then change your time zone. So I'm in Europe, Amsterdam, but you can also change this into anything that you want. You're going to use the get method. In this case, I'm going to get into what does all of this mean in API referencing in the Swagger UI, so it's later in the video. For now, use the get method. Headers, you're not going to have to use any headers for this one, and the body type is going to be raw and JSON. So you don't really have to know why that is yet. It's a little more complicated. Click OK, and now that's everything you need to get the time. So now I've actually shown you that that's what an HTTP module is. You can add headers, you can make it as complicated as you want, but this is the most basic function. Gonna click run this module only, so just so I can show you guys how it works. So if you click run this module only, it's only going to run this one. If you click run once, it's going to click all of these. So it's going to just initiate the entire automation, but it's not set up yet, so it won't work. And if you click on scheduling, then if you don't have a webhook, it's just going to use every interval that you chose, like every 15 minutes it works, or every day, or every 22nd of the month. And if you do have a webhook, then it's just going to actively at all times wait for a response and then initiate. But right now it's not waiting for a response because I've turned it off. Anyway, if we go back to the HTTP module, this looks complicated, but just to make it a little more easy to understand, you've got input. So that's everything that we gave this module. And then you've got output, and that's everything that the module produced. And in this case, it produced this. And well, it's hard to understand that this is JSON, but that's actually the header that we gave it, is JSON format. It's a way of giving information that a computer can understand. In this case, we haven't, so it can actually see, hey, this one is, this data is part of that data, and this and this and that. So it's like it's able to group that, but we haven't parsed it. So we haven't grabbed pieces of it. We haven't made it usable. So if you click parse response, then you can get the individual data points, because now it just looks like a bunch of random stuff. But now if you use parse, you can get the data and you can actually work with this. So as you can see right now in the Europe time zone, it's 2024-08-08 T1348. Now this is in ISO, I hope I'm saying that correctly, ISO 6801 format. Anyway, in any case, it's a certain way of describing time, and you can actually send this back to your VAPI AI agent, and it will be able to tell the time. In any case, I just showed you that so you can get a little more context, but the only thing you have to know is if you want that, so you actually want to tell an automation to go do something and then send it back, send the information back, that's what you would do. You would add that HTTP module and then also add a webhook response at the end of that. But you know what, let's just build that thing out so you actually know what I'm talking about. HTTP module. So let's try that again. Make a request, we're gonna go here, copy this, go back here, put it in there. HTTP module, get URL, get headers. Body type is raw, it's going to be JSON. In most cases, you're just gonna put in raw and JSON. Probably for like 95% of cases, you're gonna choose raw and JSON. The times that you don't, by that time, you're probably already kind of familiar with this stuff, so you know how to fix it. But in most cases, just raw and JSON. So this is all that you need. Wait, actually, no, it's not. Am I going to explain this right now? Sure, yeah, why not? Let's go here. Tools calling. All right, so you've got the VAPI AI documentation, and well, in here, this is all the stuff that's going to help you and explain all kinds of stuff about how do you work with make.com. How can you use certain functions? And in this case, we want to know tool calling. How do we use tools? And well, my advice is read this entire thing, even if you don't understand 95% of it, at least then you're going to know where to find certain stuff. If you really want to be an expert and be able to sell this stuff as a service, you're going to have to read this entire documentation so you actually know where to find stuff and actually know how to work with it. In this case, I know off the top of my head where it is. Server response format, tools call ID. This is the way that you have to give information back to VAPI AI in order for it to understand what you're sending back. So in this case, we're gonna just put it in here and then add tool call ID. All right, so this is the next thing I'm going to explain. We haven't sent anything to the webhook yet, but we have used the HTTP module. And what a module produces is something that you can use in the next module or further down the line in the automation. So for example, we have to, if we send information to the webhook, and it doesn't matter if we filled this in, so no matter if we add in the schema or not, always when you use a tool and send information to a webhook, is going to give a tool call ID along with it. Right now we haven't done that yet, but if we did, we got something like this. So and you have to put that information right here. So it said X, but actually has to go in there. And I'm going to give you the example with the HTTP request. So the result is whatever we're going to send back to the AI voice assistant. Now, the great and amazing thing about AI voice assistant and VAPI AI is that you don't have to structure your result perfectly in order for it to understand what you're sending back. So like if you formulate it correctly, because of course ChatGPT and AI and all that stuff has its limit, but if you want to send like a bunch of information, so like when am I free in my calendar, and what does my business do on a Sunday, and what time of day is it right now, and what's on the menu next week. You can basically get all of that information in just one automation and put all the results in here, send it back to the AI voice assistant, and it's going to be able to use that information in the conversation, instead of like having to make it into JSON and then having to make a certain structure out of it and making ISO formulations and that kind of stuff. You have to do that. You just have to put raw text into that. So again, we could basically say, hey, in the result, we're going to type Monday 31st, 2025, for example, just some random stuff. If we would put that in, every time it runs, it's just going to say the same thing. So we want it to be dynamic. So we want to use a result that we created in this automation. The way that we're going to do that, wait 1 second, is we're going to run this thing. We have parsed this information, and we're going to use one of these data points. Well, in this example, we're going to use UTC. So UTC datetime, I'm going to add that here. And then every time it runs, it's going to add whatever this produces. So this time it produces the 8th of August 2024, but tomorrow it's going to produce the 9th of August 2024. And then the next time, so every time you add an object like this into your automation, is going to be dynamic. So for example, as far as you have to know, because of course, like the status code is always going to be 200. But if for some weird reason the developers at WorldTime API decided to turn the status code into 202, then it's going to give 202 as an output. So in this case, result, we're going to add UTC date and time. So that's the date and time right now. We don't have to reformat this. At first I thought I did, but VAPI AI can actually read this pretty well. So it actually knows what time and date it is. And also the tool call ID. Well, normally if you call once, so if you added the tool and called once, then what you're going to want to do, you make the assistant. I'm sorry. So what you're going to want to do is when you make the assistant, you add the tool, you make your first call. You're going to click, of course, on this, run this module only, and then make that call. It gets that information only once, and then you're going to get something like this. So this. Out of that, so out of the webhook, similar to this, and it's actually going to be called tool call ID. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to look for it. So it's going to be like somewhere in here, and like you're going to browse here, you're not going to find it. So you click here, and then you're not going to find it still. And there's another arrow map that you can map out, and then it's like, oh, hey, here it is, tool call ID. And then you click tool call ID, and then you put it in there, and every time you run the automation is going to use that tool call ID. And then you can click OK if you've added that in there, and then it's going to look like this. Now in this case, what you could also do is write down this and then 6-point tool call ID, for example. I'm gonna do this and this. This is basically what it's going to look like if you add that. I'm not sure if this would work, but this is what it's going to look like. In this case, webhook is 6, but in your case, it might be 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 12 or 89. In my case, it's 6, but that's actually what it's going to look like. So it's going to probably be like red-ish, and it's going to say tool call ID. That's what you're going to have to put there. And what this does is tool call ID is this module is made to send information back to VAPI AI. You're not always going to want to do that. For example, if you want to set an appointment, you're just going to put in the appointment. This is going to be in a Google Calendar module. And then once it's booked, it's fine. You don't have to send back to VAPI AI that worked. Not necessarily. Sometimes you do, of course. But if you want to get information, you always have to send information back to VAPI AI. So that's what the response webhook response is for. Is at the end of the automation, you're going to add this one in this format, and right here you're going to add the tool call ID, so that once this line of JSON is sent back to the AI assistant, it's actually going to be able to read, okay, it's this tool call ID. So I actually know what question this was linked to and why I actually get this information, what tool it is, what am I actually using it for, and then you get the result, so it actually knows, okay, and this is the result that I got, so now I can give this type of information or actually work with this. So this is the way that you're going to send information back to VAPI AI. And now you actually understand what build your schema is for. If you just want to start something or get something out of the automation, like tell the time, you don't have to actually fill out anything here, because you're not going to be sending information, you're going to be getting information. So if you're sending information, you do want to write this out. And what are you actually building here? What are you actually writing down here? Well, as we saw, let's make a quick example, just choose anything, doesn't really matter. Right here, we can do this way quicker by just running it again. You're basically doing the same thing that the modules are doing. So you have this, to make it a little easier, I could just call it category of information and then the actual data. So right here, this is going to be like right here, the property name and then the description. So this has to be, I'll make it even easier. This has to be descriptive. So you're just going to tell it, in this case, we're building a, what was it again? We're building a, oh yeah, we're building a VAPI AI assistant that you can call and ask to generate a blog. So literally only thing that we have to send to VAPI AI is the blog subject. So just blog subject. This is the subject of the blog that we will be writing. So this is the subject of the blog that we will be writing, and it's the only thing we have to send. If we also want to add like a title or whatever, just some keywords that have to be part of it, you can just do this and then say keywords. These are the keywords that we will be using in the blog. So for now, just gonna use blog subject. What's this tool for? Send subject. So this is the previous one is what we're going to send to make.com, and this one, so what we fill out here, is going to be going to help the assistant know when to use it and when not to use it. So we can call this send subject, and then later on we can tell the assistant use the send subject tool to generate a blog. And then here we say it generates a blog and sends the blog subject. So just something really generic, a little descriptive. You can be more descriptive, you can experiment with this, but this is just okay. We're gonna click create, and then we've made a new tool. You don't have to look at anything right here. You can just click this, copy ID, go to assistants, create assistant. We're just gonna build a new assistant. So you're in VAPI AI. Oh wait, I'm not even sure if I told you how to get here. I think I'm skipping ahead a few parts. Well, just go to VAPI AI, make an account, you get $10 for free. If you go to the overview, that's right here, you can see everything that you want to see. In the phone numbers, you can get a new phone number. So this is the one that I'm using for the demo videos. You can buy a number for $2, or you can import one from Twilio or Vonage just to experiment with it or start with it. I would just buy a number from here. Files is not something you have to get into right now. You can add a knowledge base that is going to be able to call, like, for example, a bunch of information about your business, so that if someone asks a question about your business, so you're building a customer service agent, it's going to be able to actually give a good answer to that. Tools, that's what we just built. Blocks is if you want to have a very, very specific pathway of conversation, like someone calls to the doctor's office and has to plan, book a time to get with the doctor. It's first going to look for could it be this or that or this or that. So that's a situation where you would really want to use blocks because you want to be very specific. Something probably the most advanced tool in VAPI AI right now, something we're going to get back to later. And squads is also something that I've covered in my latest video, actually. So if you want to get into that, watch that one. But for now, this is just the beginner guide that you're gonna that's really gonna set you up to build literally anything that you want. Voice library, here you can choose and try voices. I'm gonna explain that in a minute. And then call logs, you're gonna see which calls you have made. So you can just ignore those for now. And here in create assistant, we're gonna create a new assistant. And then we're gonna call it starter. And then we're gonna call it inbound Q&A, for example. And starter. So these are templates, so they're gonna fill everything in for you. So you can edit that to, or you can just use a blank template if you don't want to, if you really want to write your own prompts, for example. In this case, I'm just gonna say, hi there, what blog should we write? The caller is going to give you a subject for a blog to write. When he does, use the send subject tool to start the writing. So this is just this is the easiest and most simple assistant that you can make. So this is the first message. If you're going to call the assistant, this is what you will hear. And also this is the system prompt. So this is the instruction that we give behind the scenes of like, hey, how should you act? The model, I always use GPT-4o cluster. You can also use mini cluster. It's a little bit quicker, I think. Yeah, it's a little quicker. It's pretty good. So in this case, we're just going to use that one because it's good enough. So that's all the things you have to touch right here. You don't, most of the time, you're not going to have to touch max tokens, temperature, and knowledge bases. Just ignore those. So that made the model. These are the costs. You can actually see what does it cost. VAPI AI costs 5 cents a minute. And then all the tools that VAPI AI uses cost like 0.022 cents, or DeepGram uses costs 0.06 cents. You can ignore this. All you have to see is this, and this is the cents cost per minute. And latency is how long does it take for between when you end your sentence and when you get a reply. So how long does it take to reply for the assistant. Transcription, never touch this because these are always perfect. And if you do want to change the language, sometimes I use Dutch, of course. I choose NL, but it's always in English by default. Voice configuration, I think 11 Labs has the best voices, but also in English, OpenAI is pretty good. I use OpenAI and then Nova. I really like that one. Additional configuration, background sound. So you get some background sound to make it more realistic, I guess. You can choose to do that or just turn that off if you want your assistant to be very clear and easy to hear and understand. Punctuation boundaries, you really don't need to have to get into that. If you can also choose the speed of the voice output. So if you want to have a voice, a slow voice, that's easy to track, then you can do slow. If you want fast responses, you can do that. And never actually touch this stuff, so probably you don't have to either. Tools. Tools are a way to you can enable your voice bot to perform certain actions. So here's the tools guide. In this case, we're going to select our tool right here, send subject, and then not add anything else. In most cases, you probably won't have anything else right there. Predefined functions and enable end call function, so it can actually hang up the phone. If you don't enable this, your voice agent cannot hang up the phone. Dial keypad, this says whether dial digits on the keypad. Oh yeah, this is also something that you don't need to use in most cases, only when you want to. If the caller wants you to send them through to a certain number, then you could use that, but in most cases that really isn't necessary. And also forwarding phone number is, for example, when you want to forward it to your own number in case of, like they say, something goes wrong or they want to talk to a human, that kind of stuff. End call phrases, so that's the last phrase that you're gonna say if they end the call. Not interesting either. And also custom functions, you can just completely ignore that because right now there's just, there's really something for later, and tools handle most of that stuff right now. HIPAA compliance, this you can enable this to be fully compliant, no logs, recordings, so that kind of stuff. I never touch that. Audio recording, if you want to listen back, you can do that. In this case, I'm not going to do that. And video recording, that you have to connect it to a different system in order to work with that, so you don't need that right now. And all these stuff, well, they're kind of self-explanatory. In this case, you don't need a server URL because you're going to use the VAPI AI tool. Oh wait, no, you do have to get one. You have to add this one. So it's going to, you add the server URL to the tool in order to send it, and then it's going to retrieve it right here. So that's why I add it right here, and you don't need a secret. Client messages, well, in this case, you can just remove anything but tool calls. So here you add tool calls, and here also you remove anything but tool calls. That's the only thing you need right now, and tool call result, of course, because that's the result of the tool that you called. So you can't get the result if you don't use that. Publish it, and then you have your AI assistant. Okay, so you don't actually have to add the webhook right here because it's already responding via the tool. If you do this, then you can send like, you can retrieve context, function calling, end of call reports. Like for example, if you turn on end of call reports, it's going to send that to the server URL, so to the webhook, and then you can use it that way, but of course you can also just use a tool for that. So you can just, in this case, leave this empty, choose tool calls, tool call result, and tool calls. These are still smart home innovations, but I'm not going to change that right now. They're pretty self-explanatory. I've changed one or two things. In the model, I've also added a sentence: tell them if the dog is done, if the blog is done, that it will send to their email, because that's also what I added in the make.com automation. I've already run it once. So this is what we make: a webhook, OpenAI module, and then a response to that webhook. So what you are going to want to do is first, before anything else, go here and just run the webhook once. Then go here, talk with the assistant, and then get information. So
hi there, what blog should we write?
Write me a blog about a dog who walks his cat.
Give me a moment.
All right, so in this case, of course, it didn't get any response. It didn't work, basically. And that's because we only ran this one once and not the entire automation. Also, we have to set up the automation. This was just to get the data so that we can work with it in the next modules. Now, as you can see, this is the type of stuff that we're going to get from our AI assistant. And we can ignore literally all of this, because in most cases, all you're going to need is under message. So bundle one, message, and then tool calls. So the first one, and then one. And then here's the ID that you're going to want to use. And in function, you're going to go here. And this is the data that it sends. So what I said, a dog who walks his cat. So that's literally the subject. And then right here, I fill this in, so create a chat GPT completion, model GPT 4.0, message plus, you click the plus, like add message, role user, and then write me a blog about this. So what I did, literally, is like, I got the response, I click, so webhook, probably this is already opened up for you, but if it isn't, click this, and then click message, and then go to tool call ID, go to function, arguments, and this is what you're going to want to use. So blog subject. So that's what you're going to put in there. You don't have to do anything else right here. So just leave it at that. Then we're also going to want to add our Outlook module, of course. Wait. Outlook module. And then we're going to send, create and send a message. So we're going to connect that real quick. Click this away. Open this. We can go here. Subject is going to be new blog. Body content is going to be the result right here. So we're going to click the result. So this is dynamically what is going to be put in here. Importance, I'm not going to edit that. To recipients, I don't know, video hosting at gmail.com. And then name, don't matter, right there. And then from, everything doesn't matter. If you're logged in, it's just going to use the first one that it can use. So you can just accept that. So we're going to make it as simple as possible. And then in the webhook, again, we're going to use this. And in the toolcar ID, we're going to, again, use these variables. We're going to go here, tool calls, and then click ID. And then we're going to put that into these quotes right here. And result, right here. In this case, this can just be static, because if it reaches this point, if something breaks, if something goes wrong, if you get an error, the automation is stopped. So the scenario is put on hold, the scenario, and it won't even get to this stage, so we won't be able to respond this way. So in this case, every time it sends a response back, that means it actually worked. So in this case, we can just write down success. The blog was sent to your email. Okay. So in this case, every time we call the assistant, it's going to run this automation, and at the end of it, it's going to respond with, hey, success, it's been sent to your email. So what we can do is actually try this out. Wait for new data, call our assistant, and try it out.
Hi there. What blog should we write?
Write me a blog about a dog who walked his cat.
This will just take a sec. The blog about a dog who walked his goat is done and has been sent to your email. If you need anything else, just let me know.
Thank you. All right, so that was a really simple automation, but as you can see, it got the information, the data, then it generated a blog in ChatGPT. So we go to the results, heartwarming tale of friendship, dog walks his goat. Something went wrong there. May have had to do a little bit more, a better pronunciation. Or maybe it just found a variation to that, whatever. In any case, it wrote the blog, and then it sent it to the email, and then probably if I go here, try it out, go to Gmail, I can actually show you the result, so that I actually got that, got the result in my inbox. It should, because it says that it's actually sent successfully. Yes, there we go. Right here. So, of course, you can edit this to make it look. Wait, what's going on? Oh, 1 second. You can edit it to and format it into HTML and that kind of stuff. So that's something for later. But you can actually see that the automation does work, and it sends the blog to my email. So yeah, in this case, heartwarming tale of a friendship, the dog who walked his goat. So the automation works, and I know how to make an assistant, how make.com works, how to create a tool, and use different functions. So the first one is sending information, but also getting information via make.com. And that's, yeah, I think the basics of how you can connect your assistant to make.com and VAPI AI. All right, guys, so this is going to be quite difficult. I have to admit, I just tried to explain this entire page, so that's why there's a cut here. I just tried to explain this entire page, and I really got too deep into it. It's really difficult, of course, to API calling, automation, all that kind of stuff is like a really deep subject. You can really get deep into the material. So I'm just going to try again, and I hope I get it right this time, so that there's actually a coherent, easy to follow story that you can actually use and implement. Because many of you guys have probably skipped ahead at some point in the last one, because you're already familiar with make.com and connecting it to VAPI AI using UI, all that kind of stuff. The APIs where the really, really powerful stuff is getting is introduced, and where you can really customize your offer and be an expert in this field. There's a huge opportunity right here in the API of VAPI and voice assistants, because you saw this with chatbots. At first, you had people who were selling Dante AI chatbots, which they just gave some database and said, hey, be a customer service chatbot, and then sold it to businesses, which is kind of a ripoff, I guess, but not necessarily. And then it got more advanced with stuff like BotPress. Well, the same thing is with VAPI API. You can quickly build an AI assistant, voice assistant with VAPI, but really having something tangible, something that's very seriously durable and valuable to your customers and clients, and being an absolute expert in this field, that's a very rare thing at this moment. And that's why you really have to study the APIs and read the API documentations. So That's what I'm going to get into right now. I'm going to make a future video about, in a future video, I'm going to delve much deeper into this. For now, probably by then I will, at the beginning of the video, reference this one to get the basics right. For now, I'll just get you familiar with this setup. As I said, Swagger is a very familiar API dashboard. So for now, let's get into it. How do you actually start this up? You have to log into your own environments. You have to log into your VAPI. It's you have VAPI AI, and then you have the VAPI AI API platform. So that's api.vapi.ai. You have to log back into VAPI AI. So this one's not logged in. But you don't do that with your password. You do that with your private key, so your API key. How do you get here? You click your profile right here. Click on API keys. I'm not going to be able to show you mine because it's a secret key. It's important that you don't ever, it's kind of a joke in the development world, that where you don't, where interns sometimes accidentally launch the API keys publicly. You don't want to do that. You really want no one to see this key. So I'm not going to be able to show you that right now, but you're going to have to click copy ID, go back to Swagger UI, go to authorize. I'm already logged in, but you will be able to paste your bearer token right here and then click log in, and then you'll be logged in. So I'm already logged in right now. You have 4 types of API endpoints, 4 types of APIs that you can use. You have post, get, patch, and delete. And I'm going to use calls as an example. And once you understand calls, assistants, phone numbers, all the other ones are going to be quite self-explanatory. So calls. Also, this is used to interact with your VAPI AI without logging in. So it's, if I say it like that, it's almost like, then why would you even do this? Because you can also do this when you log in. Well, for 2 reasons. First of all, you have way more options using the API than when logging in. So that's the first one. You can really use stuff that you can't use if you log in. And also you can add API endpoints to your make.com automation. So if I wanted to do something in make.com, I can actually use that, do that by adding this one, for example, in make.com. Not going to get into that right now in this video because that's a little more complex. You're going to have to build HTTP modules. I'll do that in a later video. I'm just going to show you how do these things work, what is their functions, and how do you even have to read this page? Because that's something that really frustrated me is in the beginning, is how do you even, what does this even mean, all this stuff? So let's get into that. I'm going to use calls as an example, and we're going to start with a post one. Really quickly, post is sending information, get is getting information, patch is updating information, and delete is deleting information. So if we use calls as an example, if we use a post API for calls, then we can create a call. So we can create an outbound call. If you want to, like, for example, call a company and for getting clients, for example, I'm not a big fan of that, but of course you can try that. If you want outbound, want to make outbound calls, this is the API endpoint that you would use. You use a post, and you give the phone number, and then it calls that phone number with the agent. So calls, that's the one that you, post is the one that you do to use to send information. A get API endpoint is in order to get information. So like, for example, you're really an extremely huge user of VAPI AI. You've sold VAPI AI to a customer service agency, and they have like 20 of your phone numbers, 20 phone numbers in your environment, and they are actively calling throughout the day. They've got like 15 phone calls at a time. Then you can use list calls in order to see all the current calls, but also all the calls that have been, so the logs. And you're actually getting that information. So you're asking for that information, which calls are going on right now. So that's the one you'll be using there. And then you can also get a certain call. So this is a list of calls. Give me all the calls right now. And you can also get a certain call. And then you see there's a little variation with this get endpoint and this one. And that's actually here you have wait, this API and this API, because this one has an endpoint, and that is the ID. So what you would do, and this is really high level, low resolution, just looking down and understanding this documentation. If you want to get a certain call without logging in, so you want to see all the information about one very specific call, what you would do is you would first use this one, so a global API endpoint like get call list, and then you get all of the current calls and you get the information of those calls, and then you get also the ID of that specific call that you want. You grab that ID and then you can use this one. So you use that URL and add the ID at the end of it. So this here, this ID you would replace with the one that you got as a result from this one. So that's what you would use get endpoints for, APIs for. Patch APIs to update a call. So like if you want to change the phone number, for example, or change the assistant that the call is currently using, you can use that. And if you want to delete a call, you can use that. In all those three cases, you're going to need an ID, because if there's multiple calls going on, you're going to have to know which specific call do you want to delete or update or get the information from. So those are the different functions of API endpoints, and you get that with, well, every category. So like you can create a new assistant, you can create a new phone number, you can delete a squad, you can delete a blog, delete a file in a knowledge base, you can delete a phone number or update a phone number. All of this stuff is basically working in VAPI AI without logging in, basically. So let's get deeper into this one, the post create call. So if you wanted to make outbound phone calls, this is the API that you would use. Of course, you can also make outbound phone calls in VAPI AI. I'm just using this as an example, so you get to understand the API and you can actually use it in your make.com automations. So right here, you're going to click expand on create call, and then this is what you're going to see, and most of this is not going to make any sense to you right now. So this is an entire huge JSON with all kinds of information, and this is just an example. This is not yours, it's not active, it's not, they didn't get this from anywhere. It's just an example so you can actually understand how to use this. In most cases, you're not gonna look and see through this entire document like, oh, okay, I need to put this one there and this there and this and this. What does this mean? You don't search through this one. You're going to go to schema, and this one explains all of the different things that you can add, change in that JSON. So, for example, you see name right here. If you go back to example value, that's this name. And you're none the wiser, probably. You're still like, okay, what does this mean? Name string? What am I supposed to do with that? Well, the schema actually tells you how you can use it, which is really useful. So like, it's a string, which is a set of numbers and letters and whatever. In a string, you can basically just add anything in text. And this is the name of the call. So this is just for your own reference. And that's just the great thing about good documentation. Some softwares have terrible documentation. You can't work with that API because they don't explain to you how they've built that thing. I think VAPI AI at this moment, with the switch to Swagger UI, has made a perfect documentation that's really easy to understand and use. So what you would do is read this stuff, and then you can actually understand like, okay, so if I change the string, it doesn't really matter what I could say, I don't know, or I could call this Arnold Schwarzenegger, I could call this anything. It doesn't really matter, it's just for my own internal reference. Okay, assistant ID, what can I change here? Go back to schema, assistant ID. This is the assistant that will be used for the call. To use a transient assistant, use assistant instead. Well, Let's forget that because that's a whole different subject. What you would do is, hey, okay, the name doesn't matter. I'm just going to name it anything. But assistant ID, I want to use the right assistant. We've built an assistant. I want it to call a phone number with the right assistant. What you would do is, sure, you can go in here, go to assistants, go to starter, and copy assistant ID, and then that's the one that you're going to use. And probably that's the way that I would do it if it didn't want to automate this. But if I wanted to automate this, if I wanted to be fancy, for example, because I understand APIs, what I would do is I would actually go down, and right here I can get assistance. So we just learned that get is getting information, and I want to get an assistant ID because it says that I have to get an assistant ID. So, but I don't have the specific one right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to not choose get assistant because we don't know what assistant we need. We want to get a list of assistants so we can get the right one. So, all right, so I decided to actually fill everything out already. So because if you fill this stuff out, it's going to show my bearer token again, so my secret key, my password, the one that I don't want to share with anybody, but still I'm going to help you through this stuff. So as we've discussed, we want to fill out that JSON in order to make a call. And everything that you need in order to fill it out, you can get from the list, the get list APIs. So, and you don't have to add like an ID into that one. It's always just click it and then run it. And then here you get all the information that you need. In this case, I already ran it, and this is these are all the assistants that I have right now, so list assistants. And we're just gonna find and look for the starter one. So here here it is, starter. We need the ID, so we're gonna copy that one, and I'm quickly going to save it right here. And then also we're going to need so by now, perhaps you are wondering like, hey, Jasper, really? I have to actually find the correct information for all these strings, these long, gigantic JSON. Like, yeah, this is one huge file. So like all of this stuff, like everything that's a string has to be a separate variable. Well, no, that's not actually how it works. This is how you could use it. So this is an example value that you can edit, and these are all of the different things. So that's why I say API development is the way to actually build custom solutions for your clients, because these are all the things you can work with if you're building APIs with building voice assistants with the APIs. But just to make it a little easier for yourself, what we're going to do is we're going to head back into the documentation. If you go to quick start examples and outbound sales, you can actually find some examples of how you would do this. So you can read through this entire thing. For now, what we're going to do is actually copy this one. So again, this is an JSON that's a lot easier to understand and comprehend. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy that. We're going to go back to Swagger. We're going to try it out. I'm going to make it a lot easier for ourselves. This is again another authorization bearer that I'm going to have to blur out. For now, I'm just going to use my tool real quick. Add a blur. There we go. So I don't have to edit that. All right, so this is what we built thus far, but actually fitting all of this stuff out is just going to be impossible, of course. So what we're going to do, we're just going to copy and paste what we got in our documentation. We're going to delete all of this stuff. Again, it takes a while. It's not that quick. I don't know why. There we go. And then we're going to paste this code that we got. I already tried this in Postman. I think I'll get back to that in a different video, but for now we're just going to use the API, VAPI AI API environment. And now this is an example that we got in the documentation of VAPI AI. You can find all kinds of stuff, but if you're running into a problem or like you're thinking like, really, this is what I have to do if something seems weird or inconsistent or strange, go over to the VAPI AI documentation. They always have a solution for it. So in this case, these are examples, of course, and we have to give our own variable. So in phone number ID, assistant ID, we got that one. So that's the one I saved. That's right here. And then, yeah, there we go. And if we scroll down here, this is that's the assistant. The phone number. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I've created a phone number in VAPI, so I went to phone numbers, added a phone number, and then it's in my environment, and I can call the ID of the phone number. There's a much easier way to do this. You can just go there and copy it here, but I, just for the sake of this example, to be fancy, I actually went to phone numbers, list phone number, click try it out, execute it, and then this is what you get, and this is the phone number. It's actually even quicker, I think, than going into the VAPI AI UI. Copy that ID because that's the one we're gonna need. Gonna go back here, and this is the example that VAPI gives us, but this is our actual phone number ID, so we can actually use the phone number that we bought for $2 or euros a month. And then right here, it also says so in the documentation if you read it. For number, we're gonna use my own number. Now I'm gonna do that out of frame because I don't want everyone to know my real phone number. But I am going to show you that I'm actually being called live by VAPI AI. Wait, how am I going to do that? I am recording with my phone, actually. So I'm just going to use my regular mobile phone number. I've blurred it out, as you can see, but we're going to execute it. And then I can actually show you the live results. So that's why I'm using the webcam right now, because I record my videos with my phone. All right, so I hit execute. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It should work in a minute. Yeah, there we go. All right. So as you can see, I got called by my AI voice assistant, and let's try that out.
Hi there. What blog should we write?
Could you write me a blog about a cat who walked her dog?
Hold on a sec. The blog about a cat who walked her dog has been written and sent to your email. If you need anything else, just let me know.
Ah, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so as you can see, you can actually make outbound calls with VAPI AI, but I'm not really sure if it actually used the function or the tool. Perhaps you're going to have to add that, so you add a tool parameter to the body, or a tool function to the body. But hey, that's pretty cool. It worked. All right, so now getting back into the system, I'm going to show you guys the absolute gold of this video. So this is what is going to tie it all together. It's when we actually make an HTTP module and add this thing to our make.com automation. So this is what we're going to do. First, you're still in this environment. You're going to scroll down here, and you're going to see this curl. So you're going to want to copy this entire thing. This thing is what you're going to copy. Of course, right here is where your token is going to be. Then you're going to go to ChatGPT. Janis, I forgot what his name was, but I'll link him in the description. I think he made this ChatGPT custom GPT where you can actually give it curls from an API, and then it will automatically make it into an HTTP module. So it's a little difficult to describe, but all you have to do is just copy the curl. And again, I already did this because I don't want to show you guys my token, so I really have to wiggle my way around that. But you have to just literally copy and paste what is there into ChatGPT. It's going to ask you always to give the module a name. In this case, I just said a funny name, and then it replied with this. You can just copy that and then remind that. So just remind that we copied that. I also know why it didn't use the function. This wasn't turned on yet, so it couldn't actually call the function. So that's why I didn't get a blog in my email. Right now it will. So it will actually call the function. So we're going to try that. And make a new scenario. So this is the first scenario, the test scenario. We already tried that one. This one generates a blog. But now we're going to build another one. And it's really the most basic one ever. So I just want to show you guys that you can add this to make.com. If you've copied this, so you've copied this and you're in a new scenario, you can just click Control V, and then it will add the module and you can add it to the trigger in this case. So I've done that, and right now, oh wait, I have to blur this out again. All right, so I've done that, and this is what you will see. You will see your bearer token will be right here, your authorization code token. Your this is the URL, the API you're going to call. It's going to be a post method. So everything that we built right there. So you can use the Swagger UI or the API reference to build stuff, and then you use that custom GPT to turn it into an HTTP module, and that HTTP module you can directly plug into make.com, and then you don't have to fill all this stuff out yourself. And if we, the way we set it up right now is if we click OK, and for example, if we did regular intervals, then I would be called by this assistant every 15 minutes automatically. So I wouldn't have to do anything about that. You can add a million trillion different things, but this is really exciting because it's a great example of what you can do with outbound calls and how these APIs work. So I can schedule this. Oh, it's not saved yet. You have to save it. Don't forget to save your scenarios. I've had situations where I built really complex things. I forgot to save them. Then you can schedule it. In this case, we don't necessarily have to schedule it. And then if we run it once, then yeah, we can test it out again. So I'm gonna head back over to my webcam and see you guys in a bit. All right, so let's try this out. I'm going to click run once in our newest scenario, and then it should give me a call. There we go.
Hi there. What blog should we write?
Should we write a blog about a dog walking his cat?
Give me a moment. The blog about a dog walking his cat has been completed and sent to your email. If you need anything else, feel free to ask.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Amazing. So I actually got the blog already right now, so I'm going to show you guys that. Right, so here we go. As you can see, the entire test scenario has worked. We got the integration, so I clicked run once, and then it triggered the assistant. It called the assistant, and the assistant called the tool to generate a dog. And then I actually, as you can see, received an email with a blog in my Gmail. So this is, you can do, as I said, I'm so excited about this, and you can do a trillion different things with this. For example, what I could do basically is just make a voice assistant that calls every day or at a certain time of day to ask me, hey, what should we write a blog about? And I tell them, hey, I think this would be a nice idea for a blog. And then it actually goes and writes that blog in a much more complex scenario. And much more complex automation, so it gives me reminders, or it's a fun way to do that, but it's like there's a billion things you can do with this automation. The greatest thing is I showed you how to build assistants, how to build tools, how to connect them to make.com, how to read the documentation, the API documentation, then also how to read the API reference, how to use that API reference, how to use it to get the right information to build complex systems, and then again integrate that which you have built in Swagger UI. So that which you have built in the API documentation, how can you turn that into an HTTP module and then enter into your make.com automation. This is a very powerful one. I'm going to link it in the description. It was Janis something that I follow also, who makes great content about VAPI AI, make.com automations, and much more stuff. So I'm going to link this one. It's great to get to turn the things you've built into HTTP modules in your make.com, and it's a really, really powerful tool. It's like I can't how do you say that? Overstate how powerful this is right now. I'm really excited about it, and I'm also really excited about building these systems with you guys. As I said, my last video got amazing replies, so it really motivated me and also put a little bit of pressure on me to make some good content in this one. I hope you've learned something. If you're a new guy testing it out, running an agency, or just thinking about, hey, I want to add something cool to my business, I hope I've helped you. If you're a little more advanced, perhaps I've been able to show you something about the Swagger UI and the new API reference interface. So it's really a coincidence. Just today, I noticed that they made a new interface for the VAPI AI API reference. So that's a perfect opportunity to explore that one together with making this video. So if you learned anything, then subscribe to this video, leave a comment, really helps me, or and leave a like. If you've got any ideas for future videos, that would be the most helpful. Any feedback like that would be amazing, because that really helps me out to know, hey, what's actually interesting to make content about, and I actually listen to that stuff. So yeah, for now, thank you very much, and good luck.